Hello there, it's Johnny Porter here again. Welcome to a new series of Chat Schmat. Yes, we've been away for a while, but we're back again making more episodes, and we hope you'll join us in the discussions. In today's episode, we are talking about Baywatch Nights. That's right, this is the television series spin-off of the original Baywatch. And in this episode, we have been watching the series finale of Baywatch Nights, and Baywatch Nights ran for 2 seasons, and in this episode of Chat Schmat, we discuss the final episode and the series as a whole. We're going to get into what the show is about in a 3-way discussion between Chat Schmat, the Drew Luke podcast, and Caroline Combs, a Star Trek based podcast. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty about Mitch Buchanan and all that's around him. But before we get right into that, I must point out that this was recorded as a live stream on Zoom, and I want to apologise for the slight technical problem in that the audio is wildly out of sync in places. I try to minimise that as much as possible, but it is still an enjoyable discussion, and I hope you will join us and comment at the bottom on YouTube and join in the discussion. That's it from me for the moment. Let's get into the episode.
Hey, lifeguard, how's the water? Because we're drowning in here.
It's how do you explain something like this on the phone?
How do you explain something like this in person?
Where's Mitch?
Mitch. Mitch, I'm waiting.
So Mitch doesn't have any money. He's a lifeguard.
Mitch Buchanan, LA County lifeguard. Am I losing it? You tell me.
What the hell's going on?
What do you mean, am I all right? Don't I look all right?
I just meant, how are you doing?
How am I doing? How am I doing? How do you think I'm doing? All right, what the hell's going on? I want to know right now.
Okay. I'm trying to think of a way to say this that it doesn't sound insane.
Somebody talk to me! Doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, does it?
None.
So it's recording.
I don't believe it too far, guys. I don't believe it too far.
What an introduction. Go on, Andy.
Welcome to an exciting 3-way podcast crossover between the Drew Luke podcast, Chat Schmat, and Caroline Combs. I'm Andy Luke, and I'm going to let people go around. Johnny Porter from Chat Schmat.
Yes, and Chat Schmat, we talk about lots of sort of entertainment topics. Ta-da! And I've got a special t-shirt. And I'm sort of like Gus Gorman for Superman 3. It's like, me and Superman? Yeah. Oh, I think I'll walk. But yeah, so I'm going to be putting this up on the chatschmat.com website and YouTube channel. And I'm really pleased to be part of this sort of 3-way. I just stopped myself on that. I'll fix that bit. I'll cut that bit out, and I'll just go from. Yeah, I'm really excited. They're all laughing. No,
Sorry,
come on, guys.
Give me a minute.
What is it? Positions, please.
Hey, John, fine. Get it out of your system. Move on.
Positions, please. Come on. Starting positions, right. And I'm really pleased to be a part of this collaboration where we're going to talk about the wonderful Baywatch Nights, specifically season 2.
I'm Neil Stewart. I do the Chat Schmats with Johnny. We've been doing a look at Doctor Who's recent series, is one of our more recent podcasts, and we're going to look at some more films. I'm also a member of the USS Caroline and part of Caroline Combs as well, so I'm kind of doing double duty here, so to speak. And I'm going to put you on to my captain here, Ian Lawler.
Hi, folks. I'm Ian Lawler, the CEO of the USS Caroline, a Belfast Star Trek fan club. We have our own podcast, Caroline Combs. it's normally a Star Trek podcast, but with lockdown, we found ourselves watching a bunch of television shows we never thought we'd watch. Johnny, it's all your fault. You got me to watch Baywatch Nights. I don't know why you want to give me such pain. But because of that, I went back and also watched the original Baywatch. God help me. So yeah, this should be interesting.
And also, as you guys pointed out, the link to Star Trek here, Morris Hurley.
Yeah.
Yes, Morris Hurley started on the Next Generation season 1 and season 2.
He created the Borg.
He created the Borg. So lots of Star Trek links, but this is certainly not his finest hour. Let me just say that.
I came into discovering about Baywatch through Alison Pregler's sort of 10-minute coverage of like 150 episodes. And I got talking to Neil one day, who mentioned that you guys were watching Baywatch Nights. So I joined about 6 episodes late to the watch party. And I wanted to know from you how, why, what?
Well, I can answer that question from my point of view, in that I had seen the original Baywatch Nights series 1. It used to be on ITV. It was, I think, my understanding is originally it was on early evenings, but for me, coming home from the pub, it used to be on rotation with Walker, Texas Ranger, quite late at night, and it was always on. Now, I hadn't realized that there was a second season, and I discovered this online, and I was able to get hold of the episodes, and I've been mentioning it to Neil and mentioned how crazy it was watching it myself, binge watching myself, and how enjoyable it was, because, you know, the first thing you would think of is, this is naff, this is awful. And that's a matter of opinion, but at the same time, I would say it's an experience. So that was where I came in and I said, you know, why don't we watch this sometime? And then, of course, lockdown happened, pandemic happened, and the opportunity came for all of us to watch this.
For me, it was, I was basically talking to Neil. He told me that Johnny and him were watching Baywatch Nights. And I said, okay, I remember that. That's where Mitch becomes a detective, isn't it? And he said, yes, Ian, but we're watching season 2. And how he sold me on it to give it a go was, it's Baywatch trying to be the X-Files. And that just blew my mind. I was like, what? Baywatch trying to be the X-Files? I have to see this to believe it. You said it was usually on late at night when you were coming home for the pub. Johnny, does that mean it's a good hangover cure?
Well, I don't know about that. It's a bit like lots of those things, you know. It's more, you have to still be drunk.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say about it briefly is, you know, I couldn't watch that show again on my own. Watching it with you guys has been a lot of fun.
So it's a kind of a community show, I would say then, which is encouraging for the people in it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're an actor in that show and you think to yourself, well, maybe I don't want to put this on my CV, but then you look at it now and you think all these communities are coming together to enjoy this show, get what they want out of it. You know, what was considered perhaps possibly a failure of a series is being, you know, brought back to cult status in a way.
I think it's really a community show. My experiences watching it alone have not been so enjoyable. A bit of a trial, actually. And so it's kind of Marmite, you know, go into it with a community and you will have a whale of a time. Go into it alone, and yeah, it might be a trial by fire.
I struggled with the last episode myself, as I mentioned there tonight. You know, I only got, say, 15 minutes in, when the whole, Garner was like, what the hell is going on? I was thinking, what the hell is going on? I just couldn't. But I binge watched, if you think about it, binge watched several of them.
I was intrigued by Baywatch trying to be the X-Files, and I think when Johnny and I were talking about it in one of our many meetups about Baywatch Nights, another thing that Johnny told me that I was intrigued by was it's Baywatch trying to be the X-Files with a 1970s Doctor Who budget. That because you told me about the oil rig episode about the green glow, and that was maybe, and you showed me the title sequence, and I don't know, that title sequence really gets you going for each episode. It's priceless.
Can I ask a question? The reason I was interested was because obviously I had seen some of the original Baywatch before. I knew who Mitch was, so the concept of Baywatch Nights just totally blew my mind that they would even try and do the X-Files. Do you think if people didn't know that it was based, or didn't know the original Baywatch, do you think they would watch it? Is it a show you could watch really without seeing Baywatch and be interested in it?
Well, it wouldn't have been on my radar because of the original Baywatch. I had no interest in it.
You had no interest in the original Baywatch, you mean?
No.
Well, I did watch it. Obviously, at that point in time, David Hasselhoff was still famous for Knight Rider and many other things. One of the things around the time of Baywatch was him, helping with the Berlin Wall, his contributions to that. But here, it was on ITV. They made a big thing of it. I think they partly funded it, but they were, it was all over ITV on Saturdays. And I watched the first, maybe 3 seasons, something like 3, 4. And then just, as you get older and you do more things, you're out more, you're in the pub more, and you're not really in when it's on. And those days you could either tape something or that was it. And, so it kind of, the show changed a little bit. But it's one of those shows, you need to switch your brain off for, if as the expression goes, it's not Hamlet, it's it's definitely one of those things where you don't invest too much in it.
Although I would argue that Baywatch Nights makes the original Baywatch look like Hamlet in comparison.
I've also started watching Baywatch from the beginning. I'm going to take the time of it, but even the quality of the early first season is like Olivier talent compared to what you saw in Baywatch Nights.
Certainly in the UK, the original Baywatch has been remastered and is available on Amazon Prime. And that is where we're watching that series. We have sort of off camera kind of discussed, will Baywatch Nights get the same treatment, knowing full well that it won't. But we have managed to get, it was on DVD, so we have managed to get hold of the DVD copies of it. And so that's what we've been watching. So it's tricky to say legally, where you can find this online other than the DVDs, because obviously DVDs are out of print. But I can't endorse.
Badly enough, you can find it online.
Yes, that's what we're saying. We're not going to tell you where to find it, but you don't have to look very far.
So Neil's already touched on the question a few of us are struggling with today. What is Baywatch Nights? It's Baywatch meets the X-Files, but I think it's also a lot of other things thrown in. It's always sort of a very needy show. It needs to be Buffy and the Angel. It needs to be Kolchak the Night Stalker. It needs to be the Twilight Zone. It never really, to my mind, reaches. I think with the exception of one episode, it never really reaches that.
To me, I'll go back to that. Some of the shots of the monsters made me think of Kolchak, but the thing is, it's 20 years after Kolchak was on, and Kolchak looked better. And as you said, never reached the heights. It's just that I don't think it.
I just think it just looks like desperation to get the ratings higher, and they were just trying everything, throwing in a bit of everything, and I think for me, the biggest problem with it was, with the exception of Mitch from the original Baywatch, the character, you don't know much about the other characters. You never find out much. It's very hard to care about the characters because they don't give you much. They're just there. With the exception of maybe Ryan. But it just feels like they're trying the Monster of the Week show, but there's no real character development.
There's a Conan O'Brien interview with Hasselhoff, and and they're trying to get him to explain what the premise of the show is. And even he is confused about the premise of the show, because it morphs from this, private eye investigation series to this, sci-fi supernatural kind of show that covers everything. So when you spread the premise that thin, then what you end up with is this sort of idea, sort of plan, sort of plot, sort of character development. And people like Teague and Donna and, they're all spread very thin because, excuse me, because this is the David Hasselhoff show.
What kind of PI? That's a hard question.
Should be a little more vague.
Back off, bad woman.
I'm okay. I'm definitely okay.
David Hasselhoff has been in, I believe it's 12 episodes of Baywatch, if you count the original and Baywatch Nights. There's only one season of Baywatch he hasn't appeared in, and that was the final season, Baywatch Hawaii. But again, any backstory that Mitch Buchanan has is done through the original Baywatch. You find out he was a Navy SEAL. His father wanted him to be an architect, but he wanted to be a lifeguard. And this caused so much friction with his father, because his father thought lifeguards are just beach bums, lazy. Didn't understand that they actually save lives. And Mitch Buchanan is very dedicated to his job and protecting people. But again, you're introduced, I think, with Baywatch Nights, you're expected to already know that about him. You're expected to know who he is. And maybe that's one of the problems with the show, is maybe not everybody did.
They needed an episode, a flashback episode or something, you mean, to something to update us as to who?
He's such a dedicated lifeguard, but when Baywatch Nights started, you have to remember David Hasselhoff was doing Baywatch Nights and the original Baywatch at the same time. So, it doesn't happen a lot where the star of the original is also the star of the spin-off, especially filming at the same time. And, you get very little explanation to why he becomes a detective, other than to say, he's helped solve crimes as part of being a lifeguard. And he realizes that if he had a private detective license, he could collect bounties on these criminals, which would help would give him extra income to help support his family, his son. But that's really all the explanation you're given. So you go into Baywatch Nights, and if you don't know Mitch Buchanan from the original Baywatch, you probably don't find out that much about him, but if you've watched Baywatch Nights, he's very dedicated to saving lives. He would give you the shirt off his back if it helps somebody.
But you wonder how he has time to do all this stuff.
Just to finish, they say very briefly in Baywatch that he says he is reducing his hours to a recurrent lifeguard, which means he just does spot hours here and there during the 2 years that Baywatch Nights was on. And then when it gets cancelled, he becomes a captain in Baywatch full time again. But there is no backstory whatsoever for him in Baywatch Nights, or why he does what he does. And I think that's the other frustrating thing. I think each show has to stand on their own, and you have to give explanations to why something is happening or why a character's doing something. And there's no explanation.
With regards to what I'm seeing from Mitch, not having had the advantage of Baywatch, there's a sort of a blatant apathy to Mitch that's kind of representative of the whole scripting and production process. He is completely skeptical towards the paranormal. So whenever his imperative to save somebody comes up against that, there's a fair degree of recoil of I don't care because it's all sort of imaginary. And he's also particularly, shall we say, vulturous when it comes to his relationships with women, particularly Ryan, although I've no doubt he cares for her.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. I think, again, that comes down to the writing of Baywatch Nights. You know, he's not really like that on Baywatch. Yes, he has relationships, that some don't last very long. Some are character of the week relationships. But, he's always the very respectful, very sort of quiet guy who realizes he's been through a divorce. He has a son, so he's always pretty careful, about getting into relationships. But with Baywatch Nights, the relationship with Ryan, he almost seems at times to be, it's almost as if he's coming on to her without actually coming on to her at times. It's strange. So yeah, the writing, I think, is different. They write Mitch a little different. The other thing they do is, it's all right being skeptical when you're dealing with the paranormal, but by 22 episodes, you would hope that he would start to change his viewpoint. He never does. At the beginning of near enough every episode, it is, I don't believe in this, I don't believe in that, even though maybe the following week he's dealt with a vampire or I don't know, a sea creature and whatever else, but he never seems to believe. He always says, no, it can't happen, this can't be.
Oh, please. The last thing I need is for the two of you to buy into some cockamamie story about King Tut and his mummy. No, look, I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny. I'm not buying some New Guinea boogeyman off Catalina. Please, will you stop with the mummies and the astrology and the portals into the afterlife? Let's get into the real world, okay?
Put a little spell on Ryan just to get her to be a little bit more attentive.
Oh, like I really believe in this stuff? Coagulated blood, vampires. Come on, don't tell me you still believe in vampires.
Did you see it?
Look, I saw something, all right? I don't know what it was, okay? Could have been a crazed crew member. I still don't believe in the Tooth Fairy.
But for me, basically, without the magnetism and the charisma of Hoff, which is undeniable, Mitch would be an incredible, and interesting, possibly the most uninteresting character on the show.
He could be, but yet he's the staple of the show. I mean, I know people say, yeah, people only watch it because it has hot women in bikinis, but I think without David Hasselhoff and the Mitch character, Baywatch just wouldn't work, because I mean, I watched the last season where he's not in it. It got rebranded to Baywatch Hawaii, but it's very different and you really miss him.
There's no winning. The best we can hope for is a tie.
Teague, I don't play for ties.
Hi, I'm Andy Luke and I host a Drunlook podcast, which goes out through nerdgeist.com and then Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and it goes to my Patreon 7 days early at patreon.com/Andy Luke, where for about 30p a month I provide my patrons with original art to their doors, with weekly poems, short stories, comics, and blogs, as well as getting this early.
Because the problem is, you have to understand who Baywatch is for, and then you have to ask, well, who is Baywatch Nights for? The whole point of Baywatch was sexy women, that's what people used to joke about at the time. And
fit guys.
Say, oh, yeah.
Sexy women, fit guys.
Then you have this promo
there's a reason it was one of the most watched show.
Yeah, so you get this tagline, the most watched show in the world, and then you get Baywatch Nights, and then you have the promo for it. I'm sure everyone's seen this, but, we've talked about this, but it's the kind of, they've got their clothes on, it's sexier,
Yeah. What was it Lacey says in that? It was when the trunks come off and the sexy clothes go on. or something like that.
Yeah, and they're trying to still have that sex appeal, you know, to say, hey, you like Baywatch, you'll love this. But most people I know that watch the Baywatch Nights show were like, there's no tits. What's wrong with this?
So one of the other exciting characters here brought into Baywatch Nights is a character called Ram McBride.
Mitch. Hey, don't hurt him! Mitch, what's going on?
I don't know.
You know what? That's the problem with you. Because I try and tell you all these things that are serious, and you make it all a joke. Everything's always just this big joke.
Excuse me.
I'm scared. Jeffrey's dead, and you're yelling at me. Well, I can't take it. Claire, sit down and shut up.
A cup of coffee, Cook?
Thanks. Hey, Picasso.
Hey.
Why are you?
Because it needs it. What you got there, Sherlock?
Now, she's just, in season 2, everybody watched season 2, so I've seen her as this scientist who basically knows whatever the plot requires her to know that for that week. But apparently she was a lawyer in the first season when we first met her, so I thought, that's quite a departure, going from lawyer to scientist. You know, that's a real big departure there. But obviously, they want to use her as a kind of a Scully type thing, you know, character. And, you know, not like Mitch has anything to do with Mulder, but I think they were trying to do that sexual tension that you have between Mulder and Scully. But obviously, without the chemistry that Mulder and Scully had, it was very ham-fisted. You know, it was like, it was very unnatural in Baywatch Nights. It felt like, the girl has to love Hoff because it was in in-house contract that every woman has to love him or something, you know, in the show.
I think it's worth adding to that Ryan, while she's the Scully type in terms of her science background, she is more a believer than
Mitch
ever is. So that's different. You know, she's the one who's willing to be open to the possibility, not just take it that it is, but be open to the possibility.
Which is, when the X-Files, the reason Chris Carter made Scully the skeptic was he wanted to change the rules around, because usually the woman is the believer and the man's the skeptic. So Chris Carter wanted to bring that right. So I feel like maybe Baywatch Nights is just going back to the stereotype of the woman's being the believer, and you know, Mitch is being like the typical Hollywood hero. I don't believe it's a fairy tale type thing.
She's quite a strong character. She's got brains. She's got a lot of wonderful science learning. And of course, Angie Harmon is a breakout star of the show, and she's just a joy to watch whenever she's on screen. She delivers the crap so beautifully, but whenever her physical strength is tested through violence or paranormal occurrences, that strength of character just kind of crumbles like a leaf in Mitch's.
As she cries for Mitch.
Another thing about Ryan, I think Joy comments on this here a lot, is she's able to determine things just by looking at something. She's able to determine an organism is growing just by looking at her. Even in the X-Files, Scully has to get sent off to the lab to get it.
Occasionally she has a microscope, but very often she lifts like a piece of skin and go, "This is mutated," and you're like, "How can you know?" In like 2 seconds of looking at it with your eyes.
What'd you find?
Mucoid exodermal slough.
What is it?
Well, it's going to take me some time to identify the phylum. But I'll tell you, whatever did this is becoming more dangerous.
What's that mean?
Dr. Lloyd's little baby is mutating.
She's got great eyesight.
But she always seems to be knowledgeable about whatever the plot requires her to be of this week, like, you know, the gaming or necromancing, or, you know, a necromancer. I know she just seems to be knowledgeable for whatever the plot requires for that week. So it's like the ever expanding knowledge of this lawyer turned scientist.
In fairness, that trope is, happens in a lot of TV shows. They have the knowledge they need, even if it feels out of their wheelhouse, so to speak. So Baywatch Nights wouldn't be the first to do that.
We talk about sort of story logic quite a bit, and the cognitive logic. There's no story logic in Baywatch Nights. There is the cognitive logic is batshit insane. It's bonkers. It's just make stuff up, join a dot, even if it's on the other.
That's the scientific term. It's bonkers.
Well, I suppose you come out of Baywatch Nights. There is a lot of times, and this was a Baywatch Nights, I come out here going, what the hell just happened to that?
Mitch, what the hell's going on, man? What the hell is going on?
But I think, obviously Mitch and Ryan are the two main characters. But for me, and I think I'm passing over to Andy for this, is Teague. The guy that comes to them with the cases. The kind of mystery man. I think he's your favourite character, isn't he, Andy?
Your friend is here again. What's his name?
Teague, Diamant Teague.
See something.
Teague. You mean Diamant Teague? Come on, Teague. Where are you? Where's Teague? Teague.
I'll let you know if Teague shows up. Ow!
Oh my God, Mitch. It's Teague.
Teague.
Yes?
Come on, Teague, what's your agenda in all this?
I don't have one. Just a guy doing a job.
Damn it, look at me. I want some answers.
Well, you don't meet Teague. He showed up. Oh boy, he show up.
I don't know. Teague gets always bits and pieces.
I don't want any more surprises.
Take a look at this.
Okay. It's blood.
Mitch and I are gonna go talk to her in a little while. Do you wanna come with us?
No.
No. I thought this type of stuff really intrigues you.
Oh, it does. Quite a lot.
Yeah, I think
in
he's probably everybody's favorite character. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, Dorian Gregory as Damon Teague. Who, if there was anybody had his own spin-off series from this, it's Teague. He is. We don't know. He works for the CIA or the FBI. We are Project Blue, but we don't know. It's
Hydra.
This might be Hydra.
Well, Hoff was Nick Fury.
We know a few things about him. So he generally shows up to explain to Mitch, the lifeguard, that he has to investigate this paranormal dealing. He has to go over there because Teague has traveled very well. Has been to Argentina and New Guinea, all the places around the map. And he knows a lot about myth and folk tales, maybe medieval or contemporary. And so he's the guy that directs the paranormal investigation. And then he disappears. And there's a bit of a sort of love-hate relationship between him and Mitch. I think we've got a good working theory that Teague possibly has a crush on Mitch that is unreciprocated.
I might explain one of the mystery plots. One of the biggest mysteries is why does Teague come to Mitch? That's the mystery that you still want to know. Why is this guy coming to this lifeguard to deal with these weird...
The final episode that we watched tonight actually gave a little bit of insight into that because Mitch was really angry tonight, and in the final episode, all the things we've done to you, Teague, done for you, Teague. Why have you brought it across the line, kind of thing, bringing us here, and they did sort of go into that a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah, but yeah, it's like the lifeguards. are the people we call to. And
I love the look on David Hasselhoff's face when he's playing Mitch and he sees Teague approaching him. In any episode, the look on David Hasselhoff's face is like, I'm in for a hell of a day. It's great.
Teague has a very sort of stoic, cool as a cucumber sort of facade. And the only other thing...
Doesn't laugh, really.
Pardon?
Mitch try and get him to laugh, but he barely, He
did smile. He smiled in the last episode.
He did, true.
The only other thing I have down here is he likes to water plants.
I think the thing that disappointed me about the character the most is, as you guys says, he's the most interesting, but yet he gets very little. If there's one character you want to learn about, it's him.
There's a difference between mysterious and having, not much of a backstory. You can feed crumbs cleverly, but I think they just skip over it almost in this.
Yeah, I mean, I get
which is a big shame.
I get that as a writer. You don't want to reveal Wolverine's origin. You don't want, there's certain things that you don't touch, but you've got to give something.
It's like, if you're going to watch 22 episodes of a season, you need to learn something about the character.
Do you think we have learned anything about him?
You really do.
Do you think that's a good question. Do you think we have learned anything about him in the run of the show that we've watched?
I have this vision of the guy Teague works for, this big fat guy, kind of like Orson Welles, sitting in a black leather chair in front of a wall of computers, nothing on his desk but a pencil.
I'd like to meet that man.
Me too.
He doesn't like his nemesis seem to be the Illuminati. That doesn't tell us anything about his home life. That's the big area. We don't know anything about him personally.
The only thing you can really say about him is he's very driven in his work. It feels like, he doesn't have a life outside work. It brings me back to the scene where he's going to see Mitch. Mitch is up in his Baywatch or his lifeguard tower. He's Teague's on the beach in almost like a suit on the beach, passing all these beautiful women, and he's just got a beeline for Mitch. He doesn't look, it's just straight to business.
I don't think you're dressed for the beach.
What do you know about witchcraft? Incantations. Things that go bump in the night.
I met Linda Blair once.
I just wanted to say that of the things we don't know about Teague, we don't know if he is a foot soldier for a bigger organization or he's a guy in charge. We had some theories that he's
no idea. Yeah,
possibly the director of the CIA and just does this to control Mitch as a hobby. We know nothing about his rank or his
I have a feeling.
All we know is he's got resources.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a feeling that he probably was either ex-CIA or ex-FBI and has now gone out on his own. This is my theory, that he's not so much an active FBI or CIA agent, but that he's been through the ranks and he's now part of this other group that's his own, because they always refer to his Teague's group and Teague's friends. So I'm thinking that that's how he has all the resources, because he's got the contacts. In a like sort of, I know it's a TV trope, but you sort of assume that something must have happened to Teague, something that he can't explain. A bit like in the X-Files where Mulder's sister gets abducted. Something must have happened to Teague to make him chase after all these cases. Mm-hmm. So in the back of my mind, there's a story to tell here. Unfortunately, the show got cancelled and we'll never find out.
But he also seems to be, I get the feel sometimes he's manipulating Mitch, because it's kind of like he knows, he sometimes comes across as he knows what's going to happen, but he wants, he's using Mitch like a pawn in his own chess game.
Mitch, don't even think about it.
Now, why don't you just shoot me?
There's more evidence of evil in the world today than there ever has been. Don't you feel it? It's the time of the demons, Mitch. If you think I'm a bad guy, jump me.
Like
this is my point where I can say, you know, my idea for making a Teague TV series right now on the CW or somewhere, and I'm calling it a Teague of his own. And I think, in all joking aside, there is potential for that character to be in a modern show where we could dig deeper into his own organization. It wouldn't be obviously if it was done in a different way, but you know, I think there's scope for that.
38degrees.com/petition/bringbackteague.
And actually give him a story. That makes sense.
It's been done before with old characters reappearing in new shows, completely unconnected, but for the ownership, so it could happen.
It could happen. You never know. Whether the actor would want to go back and revisit the role, I don't know. But
maybe if it gets potential for more storylines, it may attract them to come back to the role.
Because to say something about Teague, and also to say something about, I guess, the elephant in the room, you know, there isn't what I would call hammy acting from the cast, but there is some hammy acting in the show. And I think given the material they're working with, you know, the show is what it is. Let's not be unrealistic, but the people like the actors, Hoff in particular, but obviously Dorian Gregory and, you know, a lot of the other cast, you know, they put a lot into what they have. And I certainly noticed that. I don't know if you guys picked up that or that was your feeling.
They're working very hard with very little.
Johnny wants to give us a rundown on Donna and Griff completing our cast.
I rescued my first person today. Are you saying I'm not as good as you?
No, it's not a matter of being good. It's just that there's no comparison. You're a little girl, and I'm a
He-Man?
And now you're getting all sensitive on me.
Well, I got news for you, gentlemen. Donna can have almost any man she wants. She's not gonna have any problems picking up guys.
Griff, hey, where's Mitch?
He's not back from the oil rig yet.
You know, I shouldn't be worried. He's Mitch Buchanan, out on the ocean, in a boat. But I am.
Donna, you're gonna kill that lifeguard test.
Hey, Griff. You can still use my car.
I have to kill him.
Donna, you okay?
Fine.
Yeah, I mean, Donna and Griff, they're kind of a throw over from season 1, in which they were added to the cast, you know, to be the ratings boost for season 1. And what we were talking about before about Ryan's, you know, CV compared to what she was on the show, it's very much the same for Donna and Griff, because when they started in season 1, they were, there to do different things, you know, whereas in this they're even more of a side character than they would have been in season 1. And you know, that I do promise that what I will do is I will go back to season 1 when we've watched season 1 and give a proper appraisal of these characters overall. But for this, we're talking about season 2 and the change in the tone. And I made some notes here on because they're not in all the episodes. They're in very few episodes in season 2. So compare the episodes. Griff and Donna, they appeared from episode 11 on in season 1, and they were in all episodes apart from Griff wasn't in episode 18 of season 1. So Griff was in 11 in season 1, and he was in 9 in season 2, whereas Donna was in 12 in season 1, and she was in 6 in season 2. So she was very much like cut off. Donna, if you have to think about the season 1 story, and that was that it was set up as there was a nightclub where they worked in the office above that, and it was run by a guy called Lou, who was also Lou Rollins, the singer and performer who sang the theme tune. But the problem with season 2 is that if you see season 1 you have Donna, who is this sexy sort of business lady who comes in to buy this pub, this nightclub, and she actually hires Griff, and he then comes in and works with Mitch and the detective agency, and so they're kind of extra helping hands in a way for the team. But this is where the problem goes in, because then Griff, when I was watching season 2, it was years since I'd seen the first season, so I was kind of thinking, I had in my mind, oh, Griff is a lifeguard, he's helping Mitch. But then when we looked at the bios on the website, he's not a lifeguard at all. And then, so he's this surfer, kind of surfer ladies man character in the first season who comes in and helps out. And then the second series, his sort of CV has been beefed up, and he's this sort of more hands-on character. And I'll read you what it says about him. On the actual this is the official website. It says, "This year we'll find Griff getting his hands dirty. He's fast, quick, smooth, and hungry for action. No task too large, no mountain too high. He loves to jump in with both feet, which occasionally will get him into trouble. He's romantic, charming, and has a smile that makes the ladies melt. He's our merchandise man. You need it, he can get it. He's a walking manual for all our high-tech equipment that'll be used to give credence to a whole new ball game."
What?
So that's them telling us.
You made that up. You must have made that up.
That's from the official website, and that's them telling us Griff is stepping it up for this season.
Did anybody see any of what Johnny just described about merchandising?
No.
I will point out there was one particular case where you found an ambulance in the Space Force one, but that's about.
You just looked at a hospital.
That's yeah, but that's it. I mean, he's meant to be the face man from the A-team of Baywatch Nights, and
yeah,
we don't know. We don't know if that actually covers. But what I'm trying to say is, his character is very thin. So in the first season, they have a lot more episodes. They've got a lot more to do, a lot more screen time. In this, you have to kind of remember what they were there for, but also forget because the characters themselves are slightly different. Donna, she goes on to be trained to be a lifeguard in the second season, and the whole club thing is really sort of not really mentioned. The office is barely seen. The change in tone. It's interesting though, because Donna, from her what would you call a blurb from the website, describes her as, "Donna is a risk taker and a dreamer, a woman who knows what she wants and is not afraid to go out and get it. Though still in her early 20s, she has a tough, no-nonsense personality to go along with her striking beauty. Donna has hidden agendas, mysterious contacts, and believes there's more to life than meets the eye." Now, has she been to the opticians for these contacts? I don't know, because we don't see any evidence of this.
Cybertron.
What's this, sorry?
He's from Cybertron.
Possibly. I mean, I will say she is a reasonably strong woman, a good lifeguard on the original Baywatch show, but you still don't learn that much about her.
And the one thing I noticed...
She's always there to help others.
In episode 1, she introduces us, the audience, to Teague, and then, her swan song was the Possessed episode where, there was this whole serial killer blood. If she got cut at the scene of an accident and several people got infected by this. And that was her swan song. So those two.
Can I just say to our listeners, you want to avoid serial killer blood? Because it demonically possess you.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole concept of that, what do we think of that?
The fact that the doctors can actually siphon it out is, how the hell, doctors are not good.
They're working on removing it from her blood.
Well, I mean, it's probably not the most ridiculous thing Baywatch Nights just came up with, but saying that,
do you guys,
but that's basically all she gets.
But do you guys feel that you know Donna from watching season 2?
No. It comes back to my point about the show and why I don't think the show works. You don't really care about these characters.
Sometimes I don't even think they care about the stories, because as I said, even the stories are going, what the hell just happened there? So even the stories aren't even that engaging.
Yeah, there is a general, after we watch most episodes, there is a general sort of confusion about, it's like aliens have come in and stolen the last hour of our lives and we've no memory of, or we almost wish we'd no memory.
Let me see that.
Hey, Griff. What you doing?
Taking care of a little business.
Grab your gear. You want to take a dive?
Yeah. Oh. Is it okay if I go scuba?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. Hear that, bro?
I'm gonna give you this, but you don't use it till you talk to me first.
Well, what if there's no time to talk to you first? Then I won't use it. Oh, no. No negative thoughts. You hear me? No, just make it to the top. That's all you gotta do. It's easy. Just make it to the top, all right?
Do me a favor. See if you can,
Yeah, all right. Find out what's going on. Well, I'm a photographer, and I'm gonna put together this piece I made.
I'll go.
Yeah, I don't mean to duck out, but I got a photo shoot in an hour.
No, it's okay. It's no problem.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
All right, bye. I'm a friend of Mitch's.
You mean Mitch sent you here to babysit me?
Thanks again for joining us this time on another episode of Chat Schmat. Remember that part 2 of this Baywatch Nights discussion is coming very soon. Keep an eye on this YouTube channel and on our website for details. Please remember to subscribe to this channel and to like if you did like it. And don't forget that if you click on the bell icon, that means that you get updated whenever a video is uploaded, so you won't miss part 2. And part 2 is coming very, very soon, so please do join us for that episode. Thanks again. See you next time. Remember, the nights will never be the same.